Okay, I'm Stas, or Anthony Stasica. I'm 40, soon to be 42 years young. I started life up north in Lancashire, in Wigan. A fairly sort of, say, normal upbringing. It was blue collar, working class kid from Wigan. Enjoyed being outdoors, enjoyed sports, not very academic, but turned up, loved the social aspect. I had my kind of first turbulent sort of time around about the age of 7. My parents split up. We then relocated, me and my brother, to Mansfield, Nottingham. Again, a white working class pit village upbringing. More of the same, different schools, different accents, sort of meandering and working my way through life. Around about the age 11, lost my mum. Again, that was a huge kind of pivotal turning point and moment in my life, really kind of shaped me now looking back and connecting those dots. And I guess it sort of set a real fire in my belly and in my soul. I was very angry, why me, and everything else. Continued with school, and then actually managed to focus all my energy and anger and frustration into sport and into football in particular. I was playing at quite a high level, representing schoolboys, affiliated to professional clubs, and like all failed footballer stories, I got a pretty bad knee injury at quite a significant pivotal moment in my failed football career. So kind of re-pivoted, went to college, had sort of surgery, had sort of rehabilitation. I was now playing semi-professionally. I was at West Notts College. I was doing a BTEC, National Diploma in Sports Science. Started playing for the British colleges, went out to America, played the American All-Star team, and picked up a scholarship out in America. Thought, yes, the dream's alive again. And I get offered a full sort of scholarship over there, which for me was a golden ticket to escape, not just the environment and my world, but partly that, but also to continue with football, or soccer, as it would have been known by then. Off the back of that, I filled out some amateur eligibility forms incorrectly. They deemed me to be a professional. I couldn't join the university league, and if so my sort of my dreams there were sort of ended. Quite frustrated. Went on the booze for a couple of years. Just kind of lost my way. I went into work in a local council and ran gym as a gym instructor and a PT. Sort of did that for 2 years, enjoyed the physical aspect of it and playing semi-professional football, but I actually still felt like there was something missing. So at the end of that, I then joined the military. At the time, it was sort of Twin Towers. I still remember seeing that happen, much like I guess most people watching or listening will probably remember the place and where they were when that happened. Because that moment in time really shaped and changed the course of history and the future. For me personally, it made me more interested in the military and what our armed forces were doing at home and abroad, more importantly, and the Royal Marines. So I think from the outside looking in and seeing the Royal Marines, I sort of saw the coveted Green Beret and these men, and it was something that I aspired towards. So I had nobody in my family that was former military or anything, but I just thought, fucking, let's go for it. It's escapism again. It will give me a renewed purpose and something to really aim towards. And there's a kind of common theme here and thread that runs through my life. I went down to the Armed Forces Careers Office in Nottingham, and the guy waiting for me behind the desk was a big, fucking huge, imposing Royal Marine. He sort of said, jump up on the pull-up bar. If you can do 10 pull-ups, we'll start with the process of applying you. So I jumped up, did 11 because I'm a cocky little shit, and we started that process. And then I sort of did all the medicals, and then before I knew it, I was in the Commando Training Centre, Royal Marines, and embarked on 32 weeks of, not arguably was the hardest basic infantry course that you could do. And I guess one thing I knew was that I would be physically fit and robust enough potentially to pass that course, but what I didn't actually know is whether or not I would enjoy being a soldier. And both of which I did, and did to a fairly high standard. I sort of passed out of training, joined a commando unit, did my first operational tour to Kabul, capital of Afghanistan, and that's where I was introduced to the UK Special Forces on that tour. That really planted a seed for me. I came back from that tour and then went on to a sniper course within the Royal Marines, and then enrolled myself onto Joint UK Special Forces selection. So again, snakes and ladders, life. You think you're the sort of bee's knees, being a Royal Marines commando and a sniper, and then I was a boy in a man's world. I sort of joined selection, went through that process, thankfully passed first time, because I don't think I'd have put myself through that again. That was, and still is probably to this day, the hardest thing I'd ever done. It's probably the biggest, hardest, longest job interview that you can do. And yeah, I sort of passed that process, joined the Special Boat Service, and then sort of that was me there for 10 years, from the age of about 23 to 33, or 24 to 34. I was down here in Poole, and not arguably it was the busiest operational output the unit had ever seen. So it was just back-to-back kinetic tours, very busy. Had the best time of my life. It was the best job in the world, probably the most selfish job as well. And learned a lot about myself, saw great leadership, and went around the world twice, met everybody once, ticked all the professional boxes that I wanted to tick. Also had so many close shaves. I think I used up 8 of my 9 lives. And sort of coming towards the end of my career, I was a sergeant, I was a chief sniper instructor, and I thought, look, I'm happy here, it's time to sort of bow out on my terms and leave, which I did in 2018. When I left, typically people with our skill sets neatly sort of move into high-paid security jobs, and I did a little bit of that, and it's not what I wanted to do. It didn't sort of set my soul on fire. So myself and Louis, the other co-founder of Through Dark, had the idea for the business and the brand, which is what we have today. So Through Dark was formulated, or the idea, in 2017 when we were both still serving, but when we left in 2018, we kind of hit the ground running. And we had this idea for a brand and a business, and a technical outdoor clothing company that was, I guess, built on our vision of authenticity, credibility, loyalty, unity, respect, the unrelenting pursuit of excellence, values that we held dearly, and that had been through or sort of woven into our core from our time serving in the military, and now so run through deeply into the brand and Through Dark. Through Dark, we're a technical outdoor clothing company first and foremost, but we have kind of 3 brand pillars. We have the outdoor brand pillar, the active pillar, and then the utility pillar. The outdoor stuff is all the stuff that we love doing, right? I guess what started out as a lifestyle brand and business for me and Louis was, I guess, the things that we enjoyed doing. We love being outdoors. We love being in the mountains. So how can we make the most technical product in the world with everything that we knew at that time and the access to factories and fabric mills, etc., but also how can we sprinkle a little bit of that special forces fairy dust onto that as well? And I think what's uniquely different about ourselves and Through Dark, as opposed to some of the competitors out there, is that we design, develop and test, more importantly, all of the kit and equipment that you see before you today. So, cliched, but we don't just stand by the kit, we stand in it. We test and validate every piece of equipment. And I guess that was highlighted more recently for myself personally. I've climbed sort of in the Himalayas before and big peaks, but a fairly audacious challenge with 3 other guys. In May, it was Mission Everest, and the idea was that we would leave London, summit Everest, the world's tallest mountain, and return back to London under 7 days. A great testing sort of bed and ground for Through Dark, clearly, and for myself personally to push myself in that environment. But more importantly, we were raising the awareness of veterans and the good that veterans can bring back into the community when they leave. And again, more important to that, and superseding all of that, was to raise vital funds for veterans charities, and in particular Scottish Little Soldiers, which help deal with bereaved military kids, something that is very, very close to all of our hearts. So I'm kind of condensing here 2018 to present day, 7 years of absolute turmoil and tears and pressure and stress, positive stress, in terms of building the brand to where it is now. But I think what people have really neatly aligned themselves to in the brand, I think, if I can say that from my perspective, I think they see the authenticity, they see how genuine and credible it is. But also I think a lot of people, our mantra is endeavour through adversity. And we all have to face some form of adversity in our lives. Ideally, we're selecting the adversity. We're selecting to put ourselves in difficult situations and resilience to formulate or understand a better version of ourselves, right? So that we can turn up, we can be the best versions of ourselves, first and foremost for us, but also for the people that we're surrounded by, our friends, our family, and be the best version and the best leaders. But unfortunately, sometimes adversity comes at us and completely knocks us off our feet, similarly to my story around losing my mum at a young age. And everybody faces some form of adversity in their lives. And I guess what we're saying is it's not the duty, oh, just stiff up a lip and come on, just be better and feel better. You know, there's a huge issue at the moment around men's mental health and a buzzword around resilience. And what does fucking resilience mean? And what does men's mental health mean? You know, and I'm not a professional, I'm not a psychologist, but for the most part, for me, it's about turning up and showing up and leaning into that hardship and the support network that's around you, and not feeling that you're alone. And I'd like to think that Through Dark in some way allows people to do that, to feel part of a community, a brotherhood, something that's bigger than them. And our clothing is just, I guess in a way, a part of an analogy I would use is like armor. People can put the armor on, they know that it will work in extreme, but also they feel a part of something that's bigger than them. Hopefully it makes people feel empowered to be able to push through these hardships and to push through that endeavour and that adversity. So where are we right now? It's just the back end of 2025. We're supporting Marc Rhodes and the guys, who I have a very good personal relationship with anyway. We're friends first and foremost, but professionally, Marc and the guys at Uncharted Performance did all of my programming for Mission Everest. So look, I keep myself fit and active anyway, you know, from strength and conditioning, from jiu-jitsu, from running, but they really dialed me in for all of my human performance side of things, and were pivotal really in the success of myself, and also helped some of the other team members from Mission Everest as well, of which I am deeply indebted and grateful for. And their challenge right now, you know, you've got the Arctic Spine coming up. It's 293 miles, all in kind of one leg, self-supported, with a time cap, 9 days, which is absolutely monstrous in those conditions. You know, hard enough to do it on a treadmill, right, in beautiful conditions, or here in the UK in good, fair weather conditions. But to do that and test yourself in those environments, I mean, it's testament to what the guys are doing. They're living and breathing the brand. It's authentic, it's credible, it's neatly aligned to us here at Through Dark. And what are we doing as Through Dark? I guess we are just allowing or supporting through the clothing aspect to hopefully give them one less thing to think about when they're in the hurt locker and head down and just pumping and pushing through adverse weather and cold weather conditions. That's a good question. We're talking about the unrelenting pursuit of excellence, and then how, from a brand perspective, that neatly aligns to you guys at Uncharted Performance, right? So let's break it down if we can. The unrelenting pursuit of excellence, that was a key mantra of UK Special Forces. And actually it's something that when you leave the military, there are certain things that stick with you, right? They stay with you, these isms and traits. And I've got a lot to be thankful for of my time in UK Special Forces and the military as a whole in general anyway. It really helped define and shape the person that I am today, and I'd like to think of that positively. For you guys, the unrelenting pursuit of excellence, again, in everything that we do, and I think there's two strands to this. One is the things that I touched on earlier around being credible and authentic, and not just telling people what to do. Much like my kids, if I try and tell my kids what to do, they won't listen, but I can show them what good looks like and how if you work hard and push through things and have an unrelenting pursuit of excellence through everything that you do, and how you do anything is how you do everything, they see that, they feel it, and their little eyes watch. And much like people from the outside looking in from social media, there's far too many people right now, and I can call them out because I'm not in that world, but there's a lot of shit and dross on social media, and people saying do this and do that and check out my fucking 2-minute abs workout and you need to do this workout for fucking 3 months. But actually that's not where the beauty is. Unfortunately, people want the silver bullet and it doesn't exist. And people often ask me, what are you training for, or what diet are you on, or what training session, when I do the selfies in the mirror, the shameless selfies sometimes with the top off as the dad bod check. We joke, but people say, well, what training program are you doing? And it's like, fuck, I've been training relentlessly since I was a little boy and pretty much not steered off that course. And there's the mantra built in the boring, which, you know, I've long-term borrowed from Marc and the guys at Uncharted Performance, and I try and remind people of that through my social media platforms, about there's no new fad or no new workout or no new diet that you can sustain that is better than just doing the boring stuff consistently all of the time, you know, relentlessly, and in the hope that we are all moving and pushing towards that unrelenting pursuit of excellence. So that's where I see the similarities between Through Dark and Uncharted Performance. I get, what does it mean for us now to be in a position as you know, a co-founder of Through Dark and as a business as Through Dark as well? Look, we are uniquely aligned. We love seeing the beauty in resilience and people endeavouring through adversity. So we love to see people, and we often try and support people as much as we can. There are lots of people doing challenges out there, but for us it's about selecting the right people and the right story and the right narrative that we feel is genuine and credible, that neatly aligns to us as a brand and our core values as well. And it's an amazing position to be in now. So I like to do it myself as well, but what better way to kind of support and help and raise up and lift up through either that's social media or that's kind of helping through those mediums, which is great. But actually from a clothing perspective, it's like we trust our kit and equipment, we've tested it, we've validated it, and now we're in a position, thankfully, that we can say, here, it's almost like you pass the baton on and you're like, look, put it through its paces, test it, and also being humble enough as well and having the humility to go, give us feedback, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what would you tweak and what would you change? And I think that's a really cool position to be in as a co-founder and as a brand as well. And I think that's why there's kind of less friction points. You know, these big, huge brands and the competitors, the Arc'teryxes and the North Faces, you just don't get that kind of connectivity, I feel. So I think we are uniquely placed in that aspect or in that regard. So yeah, for me, it's humbling to see people like Marc and the rest of the team go out on these audacious challenges and these hard challenges wearing our kit and equipment. I'm thankful for the opportunity, but I'm also super proud to see our logo and our kit and equipment being used in the right environment. God, what would I say to the people that are maybe sat looking through their iPhone and screen? And it's difficult to sometimes bridge the gap, isn't it, between the reality of what people think is achievable or not. God, I think, much like starting the business, you need a little bit of stupidity, a bit of naivety, and a whole lot of passion. But it's on you, and I love that. I think that's the whole nobody's coming, it's up to you to save yourself. And I think the moment that you can realise that, or the quicker that you can get to bridging that gap between realisation and dream and thinking, well, what is the difference? What's standing in my way here? And it is really just yourself or your belief systems or the things that the barriers that you put in the way to think, I can't do that. Now, if I'd have rewound and everybody says, what advice would you give to your younger self? I wouldn't have listened to myself. But actually, if I look back at my younger self and told my younger self the things that I would have achieved in my lifetime, I probably wouldn't have believed myself. And I think you have to get involved, you have to hold yourself accountable. I think align yourself to the right people, surround yourself with the right group. And if it's anything that's sort of physical and you think, for me, it's like knowledge gaps. And a lot of the times people fill in the gaps with their own imagination. And oftentimes that imagination is self-degrading. The way that we talk to ourselves, and we're all guilty of it at times. I've always been quite a positive person, quite an outgoing person. And I generally, most of the time, speak to myself the way that I would like to be spoken to. And that's important. And I think, why not? And I think most people now are afraid of failing. There's this whole thing that the fake world of Instagram and social media platforms in general is that we just get to see the polished version of everybody in their lives, right? But we have to push ourselves through. And what's at the end of that? I think if you really challenge yourself, at worst, you fail at something aiming high and really trying to achieve something, right? But I think there's some real beauty in what it takes to get to there. For me, when I climbed Everest, in those 7 days, time on task was actually not the hardest part. The hardest part was being diligent and being boring with my training. and really sticking to those days. And you know, best way to eat an elephant, right? You chop it up in little bits and don't think about the whole thing. Much like selection, when I turned up on day one, I didn't think about the whole totality of the 6 to 9 months of selection. I just thought, I'm going to take this day by day. Sometimes it's hour by hour, and when it's pretty miserable, it's minute by minute. And most people, unfortunately, don't sort of break it down or try. They look at the whole thing in its totality and think, I can't do that, so why even think about it? Why even bother? You know, and it's not necessarily to say you have to do selection or climb Everest or to do an Arctic fucking spine race, right? You have to sort of be honest with yourself and measured, and then speak to people, you know, like Mark and Johnny and Uncharted Performance, and say, look, set yourself a goal. Because if you don't set yourself a goal, people will set those goals for you. And this is broadly speaking for life as well. If you just meander through life like an empty fucking plastic bag, you'll just get blown whichever way the wind takes you. And I've never wanted to do that. I've wanted to set myself my own goals and my own dreams and my own hopes and aspirations. And then if I fail, at least it's on my terms, right? And I don't listen to people whose advice I wouldn't call them for in the first place. So stay clear of the comment section. But what you do get out the other end of that is it's an absolute better version of yourself, and things that we touched on earlier. And that's important first and foremost for you as an individual, but then also for the people that are around you, right? And, you know, there's lots of stuff that I've turned up to, or I've failed, or at gym sessions, and I'm just not firing, but at least I've turned up, you know. And I think that's part of it. It's turning up, holding yourself accountable, but actually you need something to anchor towards. You do need a goal or a hope or an aspiration or a dream. Otherwise, for me personally, I feel like I'll just come off piste and off path, and I'll be a little bit lost if I can't stick to those daily kind of routines and rituals.